So welcome to episode 2 of Yɛllɛ, everyone. It's Oscar season. And every year when the shortlists come out, I find myself sitting in a mix of curiosity and discomfort. On one hand, I'm uneasy with systems that try to rank art and declare one film better than another. But at the same time, we as human beings are clearly wired for competition. And in film, awards undeniably function as powerful marketing tools. So I know this firsthand because last year I actually made a very modest attempt to get my own feature documentary Brief Tender Light onto the Oscar shortlist. It took more work, coordination, and money than I expected, even though the money we spent was nowhere near what a typical campaign spends. We didn't make the shortlist, but I learned a lot along the way about how the process actually works and reach audiences and got a chance to collaborate with partners I might not have otherwise. So this question that we're going to talk about today, should African filmmakers care about the Oscars, isn't abstract for me. It feels especially timely right now because this year's shortlist just got announced, or the shortlist in the different categories got announced. To think this through, I couldn't imagine a better person to talk to than Tambay Obenson. Tambay is a film writer and critic, the founder of Akoroko, and a member of the African Film Press. And he spent years documenting and analyzing African cinema across the industry. I believe he's also a filmmaker. He's made some films. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that experience as well. Tambay, thank you very much for being here. I guess to start, when you hear the word Oscars in the context of African cinema, what's the first emotion that comes to you? Is it hope, cynicism, strategy, fatigue, excitement, something else?
I'm trying to post this thing, but it's just hanging up. I'm like trying to get the numbers, get people into the room here. But okay, yeah. I'll do that. What comes to mind? I would say indifference at this point. I think it's a conversation that happens almost every year. Even when I was running Shadow and Act, this isn't like a distinctly African conversation. It was also happening in Black American, cineast and cinephilic circles. Like, why do we care about the Oscars? The Oscars doesn't care about us. You had the Oscar so white movement, the hashtag, and it's a conversation I think that's probably been going on even before that. So I've had it many times over about the course of 15, 20 years. And so, yeah, for me, it's just kind of, I think I've grown wary of it. I understand it. I understand the interest. I understand the conversation. I understand what it could mean for a film, but who knows? I mean, I think at one point I did some kind of a survey, I think of Shadow and Act, maybe even I did it on Akoroko too, that looked at sort of the afterlife of these films and artists and actors, like, okay, what did it actually do for them? And I think in most cases, there wasn't really any kind of a real career bump. It didn't really do much for them. But it's a dance. It's a dance that we live in an increasingly globally connected world, and the industry, it is a global industry. If you want to be part of that, you have to dance. And so this is sort of part of the dance. You don't have to. Let me rephrase that. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. Yes, if you want global recognition, if you want to feel like you're part of this global community, if you're international facing, if you will, then yes, it's a dance that if the opportunity comes your way, yeah, you should take advantage of it. I don't think you necessarily have to chase it, but yeah, if the opportunity is there, you may as well exploit it for what it is. But in short, yeah, to answer the question, I guess I already answered it, which is just indifference and just a shrug. But I'm a journalist. This is what I do, and I know that it stirs conversation, and I do get questions from time to time. So, I answer them, and so I feel like I have to write something every time.
Okay, so I mean that's an interesting response, and clearly it comes from years of covering this space. So I want to rewind a little bit before Akoroko, before Shadow and Act. When did you first fall in love with cinema and with Black cinema in particular?
Hmm. I think I fell in love with cinema when I was a kid. So growing up in Nigeria, and mostly in Nigeria up until about 10, then living in Cameroon, which is my mother is Nigerian, my father is Cameroonian.
Okay.
We watched a lot of movies when we were kids. And my father traveled a lot for business, and he would come back with sometimes with riches, and some of those riches were VHS cassette tapes of various movies. Um, but also bought locally as well. So we watched a lot of, I guess, what you call safe material. Watched a lot of musicals, um, and from Sound of Music, My Fair Lady, The King and I. We probably wore those tapes out. And then James Bond. He seemed to love. These are all. I mean, my father passed away 30 years ago, but these are all. We look at this as ways to get to know him in ways that we did not know him when we were kids. At least
Mm.
that's what it is for me. Partly, I can't speak for my siblings. Um, so yes, we watched a lot of movies, James Bond movies as well. We watched, I think he had almost all of them. Also Kung Fu. We watched a lot of Bruce Lee movies. So you had musicals, James Bond, Kung Fu. I think that was sort of a steady diet of the
Yeah.
films that we watched, and then that stayed with me. Moved to the States in the late '80s, preteen, and then very much. I'm an introvert by nature. I mean, I think maybe around people I can be extroverted, but I'm naturally an introvert. So especially as a kid, I just kind of disappeared in my own head.
Mm.
And art was a way for me to cope, especially as an African, a West African kid in a Midwestern American city in Columbus, Ohio, very conservative, and then just trying to adjust. So the music and film were my getaway. So I consumed a lot of cinema, mostly Hollywood fare. Um, going to really look forward to the summers because that's when the sort of bigger budget films will come out. Just pure escapism. Skip ahead, let's say another 15 years when I formally got into film, and yes, I did make some shorts. I made a feature in 2005, self-distributed it. I actually did fairly well. This was in New York City. We four-walled anthology film archives in Lower Manhattan. And we ran the film for a weekend. And I remember the opening night was sold out, and they gave us the bigger screening room, and we did not know what to expect.
Mm.
And people were very into it. It's two-character drama. I also acted in it too.
Oh, you're
um,
an actor too. I did not know
yeah,
that.
no,
That did not
no,
turn up
no.
in my research.
I'm not. I'm not an actor, but I'm not an actor, but I acted in it. Um, and just play myself really. And Just a two-character romantic drama. Boy meets girl, boy gets girl, they have a relationship, and then they break up. That was pretty much the story. That was inspired by everyone from. Uh, I know maybe Woody Allen's name is not the name that people want to hear at the moment, but yes, I watched a lot of Woody Allen. I mean, I watched a lot of movies, not just Woody Allen, by the way, but this was one of those films that was inspired by people like Woody Allen, even Jim Jarmusch, the simplicity of things like Strangers in Paradise, uh, many of Woody Allen's relationship dramas, from Annie Hall to Husbands and Wives, uh, to I'm trying to think of who else inspired that particular film anyway. I just wanted to make something simple. It didn't cost me anything. Two characters, two people, just mostly conversation. And so I found what worked. Uh, yeah, and then found a shadow and act. I was a blogger for a while because I needed to market the film. And There was nothing around really to do that with. There were no platforms that covered Black film in any capacity, at any scale. There were blogs, don't get me wrong, but nothing like what Shadow and Act eventually became. So I had my own blog, and there was a number of other blogs. And then one day I was just tired of it, and I said, why don't we all just combine our platforms together and just make it one thing? And then that's how Shadow and Act was born. Then eventually just kind of became my thing. The others just kind of drifted back to their platforms or to other things. Some of them, one or two of them went on And then, yeah, I carried it the rest of the way with Sergio Mims, who passed away a few years ago, came on, Chicago-based critic, Wendy Okoye-Buli, who lives in the UK, British Nigerian, and several other folks who just came on and just wanted to write because they found a space that the way that I express myself is very candid. I didn't necessarily toe any party line. I wasn't loyal to anyone. I just said what I felt, and I think the timing was right. I think people were looking for something, especially black, certain maybe not every black person, but I think black folks were looking for something like it, which is I think is why it thrived, because they wanted people to just kind of tell them what's going on, really, no bullshitting kind of a thing. So I drew writers who I think felt the same way, and then we joined IndieWire 2011, and then that's when we started making money on it. I wasn't thinking of it as a business. I never thought I would actually make money doing it. It was just a side thing. But then IndieWire came calling and said, "How why don't you join our network? And you can make some money from ad sales." And I said, "Sure." So then we did that, and then we're there for 4 years. Yeah, then Penske bought IndieWire. The rest of us had to go. Then I had to figure out what to do. I sold it to Blavity. A year later, took a year off. Then IndieWire. Then I joined IndieWire as a staff writer, which was sort of non-expected. So I became a staff writer at IndieWire for about almost 4 years. Left in 2022, and then Akoroko to focus on African film. Sort of a coming home, you could say, for me with Akoroko. Yeah, when I decided to focus on Africa specifically, the timing just felt right.
Why particular Africa, and why the timing for African cinema coverage? Was there something different that was happening in that space, or something that was missing that you thought you could bring to that space?
All of the above. It just kind of coincided with a feeling that I think I started to feel that pull to go back home, or at least to get more familiar with where I was from, even though I knew where I was from, but I'd been gone for so long. And barely did I go. I didn't go back at all, really, very rarely. And there were numerous reasons for that. It wasn't because I didn't want to, but I'm not going to get into those reasons. And then eventually, yeah, I think as you get older, you mature, and then I think maybe for some of us there is that pull where you want to rediscover where you came from. And then that happened. I think it started happening earlier than that, and then it just happened to coincide with the time when there seemed to be this certain new interest in Africa and African film, African content, I guess. I don't like the word content, but that's what we use generally. And so and then also realizing that, yes, that just like with Shadow and Act, I felt like my voice was missing. I wasn't seeing anyone doing what I envisioned what an African platform should do and look like. And now I learned so much about what the space generally is like, and what film journalism is like on the continent, which is almost non-existent. Started 3 years ago, and I think I think we should. When I say we, I mean myself, Kiade Oriade at What Kept Me Up, Jennifer Ochieng at Cinema Focus in Kenya. I think the three of us together had something to do with the sort of the professionalizing of the space, if you will.
Together you created African Film Press, which is this new sort of collective, which, we had I had a conversation last week with a filmmaker, playwright, director. Actually, the play might be going on in Accra yesterday. And so I was asking him what the, how artists are getting by in Ghana. And he talked about collectives being the way forward, that they the artists aren't waiting for the system to sort of support them. They're relying on each other to do that. And it seems, what you said about kind of, when you were creating Shadow and Act, it was about bloggers that were doing the same thing, kind of coming together and forming a platform, like a one central space where all their voices could be heard, or all your voices could be heard. And then what you're doing with African Film Press, there's a certain thread in there that feels similar. This idea of like, let's band together, just make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of like coming back to the core question, should African filmmakers care about the Oscars? I think in your preamble, like in the first thing, in talking about the emotion that the Oscars bring up for you, you mentioned that, maybe if I heard correctly, African filmmakers shouldn't really care about the Oscars, or for people that have even gotten some traction at the Oscars from the continent, it hasn't really translated into concrete benefits for their careers. Is that is that correct? And how does it compare to non-African filmmakers that maybe are international? Is this an Africa-specific thing? Who's actually benefiting when an African film kind of gets shortlisted or gets nominated?
Sure.
Is the filmmakers, the financiers, distributors, the sales agents who might not be African themselves?
Who is benefiting? I'm trying to think of any instance. Look, I'm sure there is some benefit. I'm sure even if I don't have any sort of granular details, any concrete sort of evidence or research to show that there is some benefit. I'm sure the added exposure that one gets from being nominated, even if you don't win, I'm sure that does something to a career. Something. Maybe it opens some doors. Maybe it gets you some meetings. Maybe it just gets more eyes on you. But I still look at outcomes. I still look at results. And generally, I can't say that. I mean, look at even Lupita Nyong'o after she won for 12 Years a Slave. I interviewed her for IndieWire twice, and one of them was a long form interview where she talked about the afterlife, like post Oscar, what that was like for her, and how she had to kind of go away, and the kind of offers she was getting. She's far more vocal, more vocal about that. She did an interview with Angelique Kidjo, which it traveled quite widely on Instagram when she talked about that. Back then, she was a little more, I think, just a little more private and didn't want to really talk about it. But somebody that even at that level where you win one of the major awards, and so much attention was on her, and it seemed like she was just, she was going to go to the moon after that, and it didn't happen. And instead, no. And she's saying, she did say with Angelique Kidjo that she was just asked to play the same kinds of roles, and she had a much bigger imagination, obviously, than the people who were offering her work. And luckily, unlike many others, she was in a position to actually say no, because she had a Lancome contract. I don't know if people remember that, but she got a Lancome contract soon after the award. And so, I don't know how much money that is, but I'm sure it was enough to allow her, to put her in a position to say, yeah, I don't have to do that. But not everyone gets a line.
What was in the contract?
After she won the award, the Oscar, she got a Lancome, the I guess they make makeup.
Yeah. Okay.
Lancome. Yes.
Marketing.
Yeah, I think there's a French
brand.
Yes. I think I'm saying that right. Lancome, Lancome.
So you are.
I think there's.
I wasn't thinking film.
Okay. Yeah, she got a Lancome. It's one of those they don't just dish that out. I think before her French actress, I forget her name, had the contract. I think it's like a long-term, I don't know, decade-long sort of a thing where you're the face of it for a while. So she had that, and so that allowed her. I think that then made her a little more comfortable, and she could say, I don't have to do another slave role, excuse me, because I'm getting a check from Lancome, so I don't really need to do this and do that. But I'm saying that not everybody has that privilege. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm trying to think of what exactly what the question was again, but I go ahead. Sorry.
Is it who benefits if you do break through as an African filmmaker or star or actor at the Oscars or at a major international award? Have you seen it translate to actual benefits for the creator, or is it mostly the money goes into the distributors, the salespeople, the financiers of films?
Well, there's no money for winning an Oscar, right? So I think you just get the trophy, and then that's it, and then the prestige of winning one. I ultimately, I guess it just depends. I mean, I think again, just using the Lupita example, it's supposed to boost your career. You even think of Halle Berry when she won for Monsters Ball in 2001, and I remember the big speech because I've seen it so many times. When she and she said, you know, the doors have finally been opened, and she's crying, and everybody, Meryl Streep is clapping, and you know, it's like, no, the doors were not open. No, they were nothing really changed. Um, so who benefits, man? I don't know. I don't know if anyone really ultimately does, other than maybe the academy itself, and it just keeps on going. And it maybe gets to pretend that there is change and there is diversity, and I mean they've been opening up their membership to ensure some diverse representation. I think that is happening, but I think we still see the Annenberg surveys from USC that they release 3 or 4 times a year, and nothing has really changed. You know, I mean, women are still underrepresented at the studio level anyway. Black women are especially underrepresented. So within that group itself, there is still the minority within the group. Um, uh, Generally, I mean, it hasn't. I think for Black people in the business, I'm not sure how much of a difference it's really made. There are individual success stories, sure, but at the end of the day, I mean, Tyler Perry makes 3 or 4 films a year. He's got about 8 shows on TV, and I remember when we launched Shadow on that, we were writing about mostly Tyler Perry and Spike Lee all the time, and that was because those were the only 2 people who were really working. 2008, 2009. Occasionally, Antoine Fuqua, F. Gary Gray, but for the most part, it was about 3 or 4 dudes. Um, and then you had that period in between where you had more people coming to the fore. But then now we're just kind of back to where, in a sense, where you were back then. It's still Tyler Perry and Spike Lee. So I don't know what's really changed. We've just gone full circle. So yeah, but you know, the answer is not a simple one. I guess maybe that's how I'll just say it. It's not a simple answer. I don't know who really benefits other than the academy itself. And Sure, individual success stories, somebody may break out here and there, but when I think of all the Africans who have been nominated, international feature film nominees, uh, we'll see. I mean, I think Kauthar Ben Hania, who from the Tunisian filmmaker, who has pretty much dominated Tunisian submissions now for the last, I think, 3, 4 years. The Man Who Sold His Skin, 4 Daughters. This year she has the voice of Hin Rajab. I think 3 years in a row she's picked up a nomination, I believe. So pretty sure that will be nominated. It was shortlisted yesterday or 2 days ago.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that will be nominated as well. It has a lot of support behind it. Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix. I think that's a lock for a nomination. Whether it wins, I don't know. It's not an African story, but it is an African filmmaker.
And
there was some disappointment. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were hoping to see other films in the mix, in the shortlist.
I think several of us thought that maybe My Father's Shadow would make it. Yes, at least on the shortlist. I don't think we thought it would get nominated, but at least I think we were hoping that would be shortlisted. Yes, I thought it had a lot of momentum. Movie has been doing a pretty good job, I think, getting it out. It's picked up a couple of Gothams, British Independent Film Awards as well, BIFAs. I think Kinola Davis maybe has picked up a couple of other trophies here and there. Chope Dirisu, the same thing.
It had an award at Cannes where it premiered, right?
Yes. It had a special mention. I think to the Camargue d'Or, for first feature. So it has some momentum behind it, and I think typically when Mubi wants to get a film in, make sure a film gets nominated, especially these days since they have more money. I think they typically are able to do that. So that was a surprise. I thought that would be shortlisted. Yes. So the fact that it wasn't, but they've already won some awards at the sort of independent awards. So I think that sets up Akinola, I think, well for potentially his next film. I think he's, in this case, the nomination, even without the nomination, but just the hoopla and the hype and the conversation around it, even in Nigeria itself, I think, locally and internationally, because there's the debate about whether or not it's a Nigerian film. Is it a Nigerian film? Is it a British film? And then it's representing the UK, not Nigeria. Then this whole nonsense about language requirements, and that whole category just needs, I think, to be revamped, or maybe just eliminated altogether. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. And maybe we'll get to that, the language requirement. But I kind of took a look at a little bit of the stats. So just focusing on the international best feature category this year, I think there were about 92 submissions, 86 were eligible. I think of the 86, 6 or 7 were African submissions, so about 7%. And then just the one Tunisian film, The Voice of Hindraja, was on the short list of 15. So that's about 7% African representation. Whereas, if you think about the number of countries out in the world, the percentage, Africa represents about 28% or so, and about 20% of the world's population. So it's a large underrepresentation. So how do you think that happens? What do you think is going on there that results in Africa being so underrepresented in this international best feature category?
Well, we're not making films enough, and not enough countries are producing films at that level, at that caliber, that can travel, that can compete at that level. So, and we can then, you ask why. Well, the answers are kind of obvious. The infrastructure, the financing, skills gap, lack of local interest, government interest, no film commissions, no national film grant, except for maybe 4 or 5 countries. There's just no local support for this. It's not a priority, I think, for most African governments, even though increasingly we're seeing more and more of them take this seriously because they see maybe the economic benefits, potential benefits of it, but also as cultural exchange, as soft power. It'll take some time, I think, to get there, but for right now, it's still ultimately it's South Africa, it's Nigeria, it's Kenya. Then you almost always Morocco is almost. I mean, even Nigeria itself has been very inconsistent when it comes to the Oscar. I think they only submitted for the first time about 7 years ago. Lionheart, I think it was. I think that was the first one.
They didn't submit.
Say that again.
This year, the Nigerian committee chose not to submit.
Well, there's a story. There's a longer story behind that, but it wasn't that cut and dry. But that's just, I don't know how much of that I can actually talk about. Okay. But yeah, there was. I mean, it ultimately, I think. Say that again.
Can you give us a gist of it, some contours of it?
Well, I think we all thought that Akinola Davis's My Father's Shadow would be the film. I mean, I think I said that in one of my newsletters, and I think probably most Nigerian cinephiles and people, industry observers, what kept me up, my Ikede, I think Ikede is probably online, I don't know if he is. I think the conversation that we all had, it seemed to be the one that was obvious, like, well, which other one would there be? It was at Cannes and won an award there, so of course. But it ended up representing the UK. And so I think it's actually public information that they did not submit because there's a submission process with the Nigerian Oscar Screening Committee, the NOSC. So it seemed like from the very beginning this was going to be positioned as a UK film, a British film, not a Nigerian film, at least at the international level, at least when it came to the Oscars specifically. So yeah. But yes, Nigeria's been inconsistent. I think probably the northern states have been the most consistent when it comes to Oscars. So I think Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt maybe has submitted, I think, something for maybe the last 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me, South Africa has also been inconsistent. Kenya seems to be stepping up more, I think, the last 5 years. Senegal, I think, is in and out. Burkina Faso, maybe in and out. Those countries, African countries that have historical sort of legend, if you will, that where many of the pioneers came from, you might find some inconsistent engagement with the Oscars. But it really comes down to, I don't know, this year, I think, every year it seems like a new set of countries one or two countries are submitting for the first time. Madagascar submitted this year. I think that was the first time they've ever done. Then, of course, you have the diaspora entries, the ones that are not necessarily made by African filmmakers, but they're telling African stories. You see with Banzo was one of them, Eagles of the Republic, which is Tariq Saleh is an Egyptian filmmaker. I mean, Egyptian Swedish. He's based in Sweden. But it is an Egyptian story. But it represented Sweden, but it wasn't shortlisted. So yeah, but to answer the question, it's the reasons are plenty for why there isn't much participation. So it's not necessarily like a matter of there being so many films and they're just not being selected. There are so many films, but they're just not at the level that are going to compete with Parasite. We're not making those kinds of films. If we are, they're funded by European national funds or North American or Gulf-based funds, increasingly so. So until we start making, if we want to participate, because that is the question, if governments want to participate, if they see this as something that will have some positive effect on their local industry, then they will have to step up and start creating the kind of work that's still very locally relevant, but has some international legibility, if you will.
Are you seeing countries on the continent kind of targeting that, kind of, shifting policy or putting investments in this space, maybe not for not expecting, results next year or 3 years from now, maybe 5 or 10 years ahead? Is there anything that's on your reporting from what you've seen on the continent?
Not really. I think right now the focus really is on just building foundations and handling, or at least just filling out the base and creating environments that will allow filmmakers to do what filmmakers do. Okay. I don't think anyone is necessarily chasing the awards at this point because we just don't have the work to compete at that level. Okay. But even still, then I think even if we don't, I think we can still submit anyway, just to say, hey, look, we're here. And sure, we know very well that this is not going to be shortlisted, but this is what we have, and it's a way to make you just globally legible, I guess, if that is something that you want. So,
I see. So maybe for people that are tuned in or will watch this afterwards, we can maybe kind of give an overview of what it takes to even qualify to be considered, particularly in the Best International Feature category. I can take like a summary, or if you want, I know you have to be produced outside the US, with majority of the creative control being from that country. There's a language requirement. You have to have a theatrical release of at least 7 consecutive days in your country. Probably 3 times a day, and then the format has to be like DCP or film equivalent, and then you have to be selected by a committee that's been approved by the Academy within your country, right? Am I missing anything?
No, just I think the main thing is the language requirement, and then a theatrical, making sure that you had a theatrical release at home. Right. Those are the 2 main. Yes.
Okay. So the language requirement. Let's talk about that, because that's one that I've had a couple of debates with like friends about. Because to me, so the language requirement, as I understand it, is that a maximum of 50% of the film, or the film has to have a majority non-English dialogue.
Yeah, I think it's like 51%. Yes,
51%, right? Where is that coming from? And as you understand it, I don't know if that's something you think is a positive requirement. Does it hinder? Because in my view, I mean, I guess I'll let you answer that first. What do you think of that requirement?
I guess I think it's it's complicated, especially from an African perspective, where colonial languages dominate. You know, I mean, in Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, English is the lingua franca. You know, and then in many West African francophone countries, French is the language. I mean, there are obviously indigenous languages as well. But if you're making a film that you hope to travel, very likely you're going to be making in most cases English and French. If you're in the north, maybe it's Arabic, but it's going to be the English or French. Um, so the United States is an English-speaking country, at least I think so. um, and
Yeah, but
so,
technically, it was not the official language until this
yeah,
year
I
when
know.
our administration issued an executive. There wasn't an official language, so it's
Yes, yes,
interesting that the
yes.
Oscars would prioritize.
Yes, I mean, I think it's again, it's a complicated conversation, but I think again, from an African perspective, I think it's unfair because again, this is these are languages that were forced on us, and so these are the languages we speak, and now we can say that maybe that then encourages African filmmakers to begin to make films in indigenous languages. If you're in East Africa, maybe it's Swahili. You know, if you're in Nigeria, maybe it's Yoruba, maybe it's Igbo. And the films are being made locally in those languages, but they don't travel. I mean, they're made for local audiences and maybe the diaspora. And obviously, they're not spending $10 million on these films either. They're not traveling, they're not made for international distribution, or they're certainly not made for the Oscars. So, yeah, Pidgin English is also, you know, that's considered, a foreign language
It
because
is?
it was, yes, it is. It
Okay,
was initially, it wasn't, the category was initially called Best Foreign Language Film, if I
right.
don't know if people remember that. And then it
I do.
wasn't until I think the last 10 years or so when they said, okay, we need to switch it because they saw the inherent problems with that. What is a foreign language? What is a foreign language in the United States? Supposedly a melting pot. What does that mean? Luckily, there was some awareness of that. I mean, it took them a long time to eventually realize that, but so they had to change. Then they changed it to international feature, but the rules themselves, I don't think, evolved enough as quickly enough as the name change itself, because that is the language requirement is still there. I was trying to find a piece. So I wrote something I think last year where I actually it was called "Reimagining the Oscars."
Hmm.
Um, just completely and if I could find it, I would just let me like take pieces from it. I forget exactly everything that I said in it. But I will eliminate the language requirement. If it's made in a foreign country, it's a foreign film, at least foreign to the U.S. And I think that's really should come. It seems like a very simple thing.
And it's international,
Why?
right? It's
Yeah, it's
saying
yes,
the reality of the creativity, the lived experience of a place outside the US, no matter what
yes,
language, and. And in some ways, if you think about the former French colonies, right? Um, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, all these neighbors of Ghana could make a film in the legacy former colonial language in French, and that would still qualify, right? It wouldn't break the rules, even if
exactly,
percent. So, the
exactly.
English speaking former colonies are at a disadvantage. And so
Yes.
you're fighting that barrier on top of all the other structural barriers as well.
Yes, I mean, prioritize the cultural. Instead of defaulting to language and whatever else, just it's a different experience that you are experiencing when you watch these films. It is foreign to many. And I mean, the other look. The other thing is that look, it's an American tradition. It's an American award. It's international, but at the end of the day, it's an American award. And that somehow has become this sort of global measure of what success or what a good film or what a critically acclaimed or an award-winning film looks like. But it's still a distinctly American award. Um, and so in some ways, I even when I that's what I think where the indifference and awareness comes is because um, when I think of it that way, I just kind of say, what the hell are we even like? Why do we even care about this thing? Um, we do have our own awards. I mean, yes, I know they're not necessarily have the same cultural, sort of global cultural cachet as the Oscars. But the French have the Césars. The British have the BAFTAs that are sort of the equivalents of the Oscars. So they have their own local celebrations. We should maybe then place more emphasis on having ours. I mean, there's the African Academy Movie Awards, but I think that's sort of in shambles. I don't know what's going on there. There's I think the AMVCAs, the African Magic, which is a multi-choice thing anyway. Then you have some countries, and Namibia has just relaunched this National Film and Theater Awards that has been dead for about 6 years. So they're going to relaunch it in 2026. And some other countries have their own local award shows. And I think locally, those are wins. They're happy to just have those, and who cares about the Oscars kind of a thing. But at the end of the day, I think again, it is a distinctly American award, but it has become this global phenomenon. But as I said, I think in one of my posts, it's also been in decline now for about 15 years, and I'm not really sure exactly. It's not quite the Grammys yet, which I don't take seriously at all. But the Oscars may be on their way to becoming something like the Grammys, especially now that they're going to YouTube. I don't know how that's going to. I feel like that cheapens it even more than I think it used to be.
The move to go to YouTube in 2029 will make it more relevant to a more global audience?
I don't think so, because I think the people who watch the Oscars are older folks. I think it's those of us who are over 40. I don't think young people are watching the Oscars. I don't think they care. So yeah, I think maybe the move to YouTube was in part maybe to reach a younger audience because they're all on their cell phones. And this is not even just in Africa. This is globally. I don't think anyone over under 40 really cares about the Oscars. The history isn't there. These are people who were born in the last 20, 30 years. So, and then the older generation is not necessarily watching YouTube. So, who's going to watch this in 2029? I really have no idea. I'm sure some people will watch it because they have to, but I don't know. It'll be sort of scattered because now you're dealing with Wi-Fi connections.
Yeah.
And this is something that, like, when I posted this, I saw that some Africans were like, "Yes, this means access." But I said, remember, this will be streaming, and we still have that infrastructure.
Data.
We still have that infrastructural issue where fixed broadband is still a luxury. Most people don't have that. It's still going to be data, and you have to pay for that data. This is a 3-hour fare. Can you afford to watch it? So
usually that usually runs over, right, by an hour.
Yes. So this, that's a whole nother layer where does that make it more accessible to whom? I don't know. So I don't know. Like I said, I think it's sort of like a white flag. I almost feel like they're saying, you know what, we don't really know what to do because ratings have been in decline for now. Really, I think they hit all-time lows a couple of years ago, and then they're going to bounce, but it's a bounce from the bottom, which it doesn't mean anything. And I just think that generally. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think I'm done. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering. So are these like the live views, or I think a lot of people don't necessarily watch things live now. Is the move to YouTube part to also acknowledge that and maybe reach more people because more people are watching things in the aftermath, maybe not necessarily live?
I think the numbers are probably mostly live, but I think there was a point when they started to count live plus those who watch it. I think within a 7-day period, like they catch up, and then there's live plus. I don't know, but advertising is how they're making money, so they need you to watch it live because that people will pay. These companies are paying a lot. It's not the Super Bowl, but they're paying a lot of money to advertise during the Oscars. During the live broadcast, not the clips that you see online, which is, I feel like that's how it's not going to be circulated. Is going to be you're going to see more of that sort of mimification of the Oscars, which I think on YouTube that's what it kind of becomes. It becomes content. It's now competing with TikTok videos, and so maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want to see how that goes. I don't know, but. Yeah, I feel like it's already losing relevance, and I feel like it'll continue to do that. I don't know what you do to resuscitate it. I think there's almost like I like Baldwin said something a few years ago, which I still think is a good idea. He asked because he had hosted the Oscars I think twice, and I think he did an interview where he talked about it with the Hollywood Reporter. Maybe this was 10 years ago, And he said it was sort of a horrible job. He said he'll never do it again because people have such high expectations. And he said you don't really get paid for it. It's very like peanuts. It's not a job that you do because you want to get paid. It's more of just something to say I hosted the Oscars. When it actually meant something, it's a big deal who the host was. Like we're always anticipating who's going to host the Oscars. Now I'm not sure if it's that big of a deal anymore. And he said that what the Oscars should essentially be is this compact, maybe 2 hour, very sort of reverent affair, where there's no pomp and circumstance, at least not the way we're not so focused on the clothing, and there's no major red carpet show. It's an award show. It's serious, and it's treated that way. And they announce the awards, and then they go home, and I guess it maintains a certain kind of exclusivity, and that's he said that's probably what they should try.
Okay.
But they're going completely the other way instead. So.
Okay. So talking a little bit about the other awards that you mentioned around the world. I mean, the ones in Europe, the BAFTAs, the Césars, and then the ones, the African Movie Academy Awards. Do those have an international category that would be equivalent to the Oscars Best International Feature or Short? Do they?
Yes, I think they do. I think they all do, actually. I have to look that up, but I believe they do. What BAFTAs does. That's a good question. I never really looked into what the different categories are. Let's see.
I'm curious. The requirements there are parallel or similar to the American ones.
Okay, so BAFTA has award for best film not in the English language, which is kind of some of the same thing, really. It's a film award given annually. The award it was initially also known as a best foreign language film, just like the U.S. Coincidentally. Let's see. Doesn't really say what the criteria for this is. Let me see. The most recent winners of this one were Emilia Perez, Jacques Audiard's film. I think that was a mixture of French and something else, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen it actually. Zone of Interest, Jonathan Glazer. It's a British film, but they're speaking German. That was in 2023. All Is Quiet on the Western Front, Germany. Drive My Car, Japan. Thomas Vinterberg in 2020. That's Danish. Largely Les Miserables, French. So it seems like it's foreign language. So if they're speaking a language other than English, that's what they're going by. So they're keeping it very simple. Yeah.
Kind of
they're
similar. Okay. Yeah. So I saw in the news from Akoroko that you now have an AFP, the African Film Press Critics Prize. I believe you just gave it out for the first time. And I thought it was really interesting. What are you trying to do with that?
It's ultimately there's the film criticism. There's a real film criticism that I think exists on the continent is mostly relegated to academia. It's behind paywalls, and it's in cinema journals, and it's done. A lot of it is done by non-Africans as well. I think it's been that way for a long time. In the post-colonial years, the filmmakers themselves were critics. They wrote, from Vieira to Semben. Medhondo wrote a lot of fiery essays. But that tradition has never really carried on. And so this is an attempt to cultivate cinema culture broadly within the continent. We're not, I don't want to act like we are trying to be saviors or something. We're the only ones who are doing this, so we know what's good, whatever. Because sometimes that's how people perceive how we present ourselves. We're just doing what we can with what we have, and what we think needs to be done. And this was something that, as critics, we felt would be a sort of conversation starter, but also would recognize the talent, like especially in a world that's moving increasingly towards content. it's sort of like a reminder that, and then especially when it comes to Africa, we tend to focus too much on, well, the conversation tends to be around the creator economy, the creator economy, the creator economy, which is really just, it's digital content. It's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, and that's fine. So I'm not even knocking that, but I almost feel like we have to begin to really differentiate between the two. The cinema as an art form, not because we're purists or snobs or whatever, but there is cinema as an art form because it is an art form. Versus a 2 or 3 20-second, 30-second, 2-minute video of you, whatever you see, whatever you're doing on TikTok. The skits, especially that we see, comedy skits coming out of certain countries. Again, totally fine. It's not a knock, but I think we've never really had this the same sort of cinephilic culture. I think continent wide. I think there was a time when it seemed like that was going to happen in the days of the Sembens and the Mambetis and Ondos and Safi Faye, Sarah Maldoror, where cinema was not just a form of expression but also a form of resistance. It was political, and that was obviously with reason, with good reason. But I feel like we still have reasons for cinema to be. Not when I say political, I don't mean that it has to be didactic and boring, but you can still make. I mean, many of the films made on me, I thought were really fiery and even entertaining on some level, but they still had a message, and still really hit the point that they wanted to. And then Mambeti was very freewheeling, and that kind of experimentation you saw with Tuki Buki. I mean, I'm not sure how much you actually see much of that anymore. And we're all trying to copy, well, not all of us, but it's like this Hollywood model is sort of copy and paste. We want to make Hollywood movies, but we don't have the budgets for Hollywood movies, and so we end up making these films that just don't work. But yeah, I mean, I hope that I was trying to offer some broader context as well.
Yeah, so you're looking to develop cinema culture more, like catalyze it, push it. That's exciting.
Yeah, we want criticism to just be normal. We want to normalize it. We want to. I think one of Ikeade's What Kept Me Up's writers wrote a review for this for a film by Funke Akindele. Our latest film, I think, is called Behind the Scenes or something like that. And Nigerians, I mean, anybody Nigerian listening to this or any who will listen to this would obviously know who she is. But even outside of Nigeria, would know who she is. And she's she's probably Nigeria's biggest star ever. Maybe even bigger than Genevieve and Naji, but those may be fighting words. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Genevieve and Naji is like Beyonce, and maybe Funke Akindele is somebody else. I don't know. But right now it's Funke Akindele's time, and she's just dominating box office there. But anyway, he wrote a review of her latest work, and oh my goodness, if you see the tweets, it's like, it's gone off the rails. And the comments that are being left, I mean, they're just beating him up, or at least attempting to bully the writer into some kind of submission or something like that. And it's actually quite sad. And I mean, I'd like to think that we're intelligent people and we can read criticism and we can appreciate someone writing something that is someone packing a film as a work of art and saying this is what works, this is what doesn't work, here's why, making supportive arguments, as opposed to many of the commenters clearly did not even read it. They just read the headline. You could see they're reacting to a headline and not at all having read the piece. And so this is somebody with a big fan base, and she's not doing anything. I don't think she's not sending them out and saying, hey, go and harass that person. But really, it's borderline harassment. I mean, they're saying, oh, it's like, okay, this is ridiculous. Someone should be able to write a review and and a criticism of work, and it should be accepted as, not even accepted. If you want to push back against it, fine, that's fine. But to act in a way that suggests that you don't even think it should exist in the first place, this person has no right to write this and say these things. It's really absolutely insane. And I'd like to think that we're more intelligent than that. But this is how it is, right? This is not a unique case. I mean, in Nigeria especially, fans are rabid, and I've seen this happen over and over and over. I remember when I launched Akoroko, and my style. I remember certain Nigerians I would say, man, I don't know, like, but so I remember one person saying there's no room for, or that truth tellers just don't make it in the space. And then I remember certain Nigerian writers who DM me and say, I don't even say anything anymore because it's just not even worth the headache. And I love that because at Shadow and Axe, that was something that we faced a lot of. So I'm used to that kind of thing, and so I kind of know how to deal with people who come at you that way. And there's ways to shut people down right away, and I've learned those I've learned those tactics from the battlefield years of Shadow and Axe, because Shadow and Axe comment sections were really battlefields, and people who knew who were there at the time would know that. So this is a way to, again, just normalize criticism. Like what's like, come on, we're not haters. We this is how you cultivate audiences, or part of the process of cultivating taste and appreciation for the art form known as cinema. It's not, but again, um, if you're probably sub 40 years old or even sub 30 years old, it's everything to you is content, and maybe there's just very little, unless you've gone to film school, or unless you have maybe parents who instilled something in you, an appreciation for it. You probably don't have much of an appreciation for conversation, like real conversation around cinema. So I remember when I launched the platform, somebody said, "Oh, you guys are going to elevate the conversation around African film." I said, "Okay, I never thought of it that way." So we're humble. So I will
Yeah.
say that these are people saying those things. We're not the ones who are saying it. So
You mentioned that some of the work is critical. And I noticed with Akoroko, your tagline is African cinema now, exclamation point. To me, it had echoes of Kwame Nkrumah's self-government now, the CPP, his party's demand for independence from colonial rule, immediately rather than in time. Is that resonance intentional? What's next for Akoroko and African Film Press?
I won't think of Oklahoma at all, but thank you for making that connection. I like to think that we're all, we're swimming in the same waters as those who came before us, and so we're drinking the same water, and in a way, these things just get moved around. Yeah, African cinema now is just I'm not one to talk. I'm not one to. I'm sick of the panels and sick of the panels. There's so many. We just keep having panels. It seems like there's a lot of funding that this funding seems to be available for panels, but funding is not available for the work itself. So I'm sick of talking. Like it really, for me, it was a recognition, because I feel like there's still this disconnect again. Not everyone, so this is a generalization, but there's a disconnect between the past and the present, and we don't build on the work of those who came before us. We don't those conversations. We don't make those connections. So I go to festivals, I go to conferences or events, and I find that we're just walking in the same circles that those who came before us have already mashed and made very clear pathways for us to then say, okay, this is where they ended. We should pick up from here and go forward. But we just do the same thing, have the same conversations, and then nothing really changes. So part of that is let go. Let's stop talking, because the talking has been done. The James Baldwin quote, or maybe it's Maya Angelou. I'm sorry. Your crown has been bought and paid for, and even though it's a distinctly African American context, but I think that's also kind of applicable in the African post-colonial, even contemporary context. Your crown has been bought and paid for. Those who came before us have already done all the talking, they've done all the unpacking, they've said this is what we need to do. Now let's just effing do it and stop talking about what needs to be done, because we know what needs to be done. There's no need to keep talking about it. So what's next? It's funding dependent. It's like everything else. So we had a very this was a year of consolidation, a year of exposure, a year of just getting the name out, and that's what much of my traveling was about. The more people know about African Film Press, Akoroko, Cinema Focus, what kept me up, than they did in January 2025. in Africa, but also on the international stage. So global presence. We're saying global presence, African focus. That's sort of a new tagline. So we've checked those boxes this year. We launched the Critics Prize in Nairobi. We got some good press out of that. So even if people may not necessarily immediately recognize African film press, part of the process is you just keep repeating it, and it sinks in, and then eventually they're like, oh yeah, you want them to think of us first for everything. So 2026 will be mostly about just, I think I won't travel as much. We have to raise some funds so that it'll be mostly a fundraising year. Because we have a lot of things that we want to do. We have a lot of ideas and things that we believe will move things forward generally, and we just need to get the funding to do them. So, yeah.
I wish you much success.
Thank you.
Now, before we're still on the hour, and so before we wrap up, I'm trying to do this thing where I end conversations by asking guests if they would like to leave us with a phrase or final thought, in which that's personal for you. It's totally optional. If you'd like to, if you prepared something, I'd love to share it with the audience here and online now.
I think you said in the WhatsApp message it doesn't have to be in like a native tongue. I think
however you interpret that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean within I won't even say that. I'll just say there's an Arthur Ashe quote that I use all the time, and I think it's just sort of very simple a simple framework for problem solving. As opposed to dwelling on what can I do, what needs to be done. It's start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. That's really it. And so when I need to come back down to earth, especially if I was struggling with something, or how to proceed on something or advance on something, I always come back to that quote because it's such a simplified way of solving problems. Okay, where am I? What do I have? And I'll do what I can with what I have. And that was sort of the ethos behind Shadow and Act. That was the ethos behind Akoroko. And so every decision we make, really, I think is grounded in that framework. Is start. Okay, where are we? What do we have? And what can we do with that? That's it. All right, so we'll do that. And,
I love that philosophy. It's the same way I approached making my feature, which I thought would take 5 years, ended up taking 12 to 13 to finish. But I wanted to tell the story of African students going abroad to study, and it took much longer to make. But I picked up the camera. We didn't have money to hire cinematographers, so I shot. And made it happen. So it's a philosophy I subscribe to as well. Thank you for sharing it with us today. And I will say in my language, in my dad's language, Barka, thank you for this conversation. Tambay, it's been really rich to get your perspectives on the African cinema space, particularly around awards and marketing and the pros and cons of that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this episode of Yɛllɛ. Follow Tambay Obenson on his handle and African Film Press and Akoroko as well. See you next time, and bye, everyone.
Thanks, Arthur. I appreciate it.